In 1957, ICI bought 1,800 acres of land on the eastern side of the Severn estuary, with every intention of developing the entire site as an industrial complex. Although planning permission was granted for the whole site, in the event, only a small section of the land was developed, leaving the remainder to continue to be farmed until it was needed for operational uses or for other developments. In December 1997, ICI sold its fertilizer business, which included the Severnside plant, but continued to develop the potential of the rest of the land for commercial purposes. The project has been named Western Approach. This film demonstrates the processes ICI has adopted to create a master plan for an environmentally sensitive and sustainable approach to future development. Western Approach is situated conveniently close to Bristol, and the realization of the site's full potential has been made possible by recent major improvements to the transport infrastructure in the area, including the second Severn crossing and its motorway links. Situated at the heart of the Southwest's motorway network and alongside passenger and freight infrastructure, Western Approach offers splendid new opportunities for projects where location and sustainable growth are key factors. It's also recognized as a leading location of considerable value with important environmental attributes. The Severn estuary's dramatic tide, one of the largest in the world, creates a marvelous natural habitat for wading birds, and its unique ecosystem attracts naturalists from all over the world. On the site, the colonization by wildlife of the industrial landscape can produce some amazingly contrasting pictures. The first phase of the Western Approach development would inevitably cause some disruption to the existing landscape and to the wildlife. ICI Estates, mindful of its commitment to the environment, decided that the new construction would be confined to areas of limited wildlife interest, with large areas of higher wildlife interest designated for conservation or for attractive landscaping. Wildlife continues to flourish, and a network of strategic corridors open for migrating birds has been established. The challenge was to create a development that could be designed and built with such care and sensitivity that it would not only minimize any effects on wildlife, but would also protect and, moreover, encourage new and stable habitats for the future. However, by doing this, could birds such as tree sparrows and barn owls, which have both suffered a catastrophic national decline over the last 20 years, be encouraged to return and thrive on the site? Also, could features like meadows and wildflowers and the wildlife they support, which might otherwise be lost to construction, be physically relocated to a safeguarded part of the site? These were some of the difficult tasks ICI set for itself, and often going well beyond its statutory requirement. ICI insisted that before any construction commenced, Western Approach would be a model project, achieving a balance between the needs of the new commercial developments and the protection and conservation of habitats and wildlife. But why should a giant company care about these environmental issues?
ICI takes its environmental responsibilities on a global scale very seriously indeed, and this goes well beyond effluent control and waste reduction. This goes on to biodiversity conservation. We have literally taken butterflies into the boardroom for serious consideration. This is very important because conservation is the cornerstone of sustainable development. next to somewhere like the Severn estuary, which is a site of special scientific interest, a special protection area under EEC legislation, a Ramsar site of international importance for wildfowl, you've got to be extremely careful and extremely vigilant. ICI made sure that ecologists were involved from the very start of this project to make sure that key wildlife issues were respected throughout.
ICI's master plan for Severnside has been founded on the principles of consultation and partnership, not only with the local communities and interest groups, but also with the local authority, South Gloucestershire Council.
The relationship between ICI, their agents, and local authority was such that we could move forward together and address any of the problems that arose during the development process without having to argue the points out. So instead of having a them and us situation, it was more of a working together partnership that had benefits for the community.
To manage the conservation of the important environmental features, ICI sought the expert knowledge and advice of landscape consultants to ensure that precious elements of this countryside and its ecology, which might otherwise be lost, would be conserved for the future.
We're a local practice with extensive knowledge of this area, and we were commissioned on day one to carry out a thorough and in-depth ecological and environmental audit of the estate. We first of all carried out a Phase 1 habitat survey of this farmland to identify the components of this landscape, looking at the meadows, whether they were rich or not, looking at the green lanes to find out whether they're of historic value or contained interesting wildlife.
With this baseline data, ICI estates could move on to the next stage. This comprehensive study also showed that the high water table is important on the site in providing a very rich aquatic ecosystem. Regular monitoring is crucial to the success of ICI's green investment. For example, within the aquatic habitat, there are a number of small invertebrates which are nationally scarce and whose populations are monitored to check they are not being affected. This research and analysis contributes to the master plan and enables ICI to focus on three factors. First of all, the conservation of existing habitats, for instance, the meadows and green lanes, which are tree-lined lanes, and an extensive network of man-made drainage ditches, locally called reens, both of which are rich in wildlife. Secondly, ICI looked at specific species to ensure that they would be accommodated within the new development. Examples are the barn owl and the badger, both of which are now resident on the site.
The third thing was actually creating new habitats, because obviously if you're going to accommodate a big development on this site, it's going to take away some habitat. Where sections of habitat lay in the path of the bulldozer, and where retention in situ was not an option, we've literally dug them up and moved them. For example, we've relocated half a meadow and sections of hedgerow. These have helped to speed up and consolidate the process of creating new habitats in areas specifically set aside for wildlife. There are many green lanes and farm tracks, public rights-of-way and bridleways across the ICI estate. The last thing that we wanted to do was to cause any disruption to users. So what we've done is constructed wildlife-rich landscape corridors down the centre of the site. And here we've accommodated new cycleways, bridleways and public footpaths. Our landscape architects and ecologists have worked as members of that development team. So it's been a two-way process of giving information and receiving information. This two-way approach has been very useful because it's ensured that the scheme is actually financially viable, but also respects the wildlife and the landscape of the site.
A project like Western Approach is not managed in isolation. Cooperation is the key to its success. Cooperation, for instance, with the Avon Wildlife Trust.
This is a large site with many diverse habitats, hedgerows, streams, farmland, grasslands, woodlands. So it's already a rich site. One of the early things we would probably do is to erect more nest boxes for tree sparrows. There is a small population here. It's one of the last populations in the county. And one of their problems is the fact they don't have nest sites. This is a major problem. They can't breed and expand their range. So if we can put up more nest boxes for tree sparrows, that could have an immediate and very beneficial effect for that particular species. The Wildlife Trust is very anxious to create good, strong links with industry. We've got links already, to some extent, with many businesses. I think it's very important that those links develop and become much stronger. And certainly ICI seem to be ahead of the game in many ways on this, and what they're doing here is very forward-looking, and we're very keen to encourage that, and hopefully to use it as an example so that other businesses can follow suit.
Once all the initial planning permissions had been agreed, the building programme started, and not just for the new distribution park, but also for the attractive new landscape. Over the changing seasons, the fruits of ICI's painstaking and detailed planning process were realised. Within a year of the work commencing, the first distribution warehouse, Great Mills, was opened. And in just over 2 years, ICI Estates has successfully secured the development of nearly 1 million square feet on the distribution park. The result of the expert environmental management program is that the new buildings and their settings have been successfully integrated into a living and accessible countryside. The environmental steps taken so far are a blueprint for the future. And having now sold the residual development potential of the park, ICI Estates will continue their endeavours and success story to Phase 2 at Western Approach. Western Approach clearly demonstrates the success of ICI's ongoing commitment to responsible ecological management and to the protection of the environment.